Hi, this is Michael Cohen. I'm an elder law attorney here in Dallas, Texas. I'm joined by my friend who's been doing podcasts with me, and I did radio shows with him in the past, Don Crawford Jr., who I really appreciate him joining me today. Uh, Today's topic is on the income cap for long-term care Medicaid. I know most people say, well, that doesn't affect me, and they might not be. But if you ever applied for long-term care Medicaid, what is long-term care Medicaid? Um, Long-term care Medicaid is if you usually like if you're in a nursing home, although it could be if you're at home, where the government helps pay for your cost of care. But there's qualifications, and the rules are different for different programs. So they have an income cap in Texas. Now, this doesn't apply to supplemental security income. Got to remember, there's 109 Medicaid programs in Texas, each with their own rules. So this is really, yeah, I'm sure that you know. Don will tell you about the 109 programs, I'm
Call
sure.
me.
Yeah, yeah, just call him. He'll know them all. But there is an income cap for long-term care Medicaid. So if let's say somebody, a loved one is in a nursing home, if your income, typically your Social Security or pension income or required minimum distribution from a retirement account, those would be sources of income. It's usually not going to be interest or dividend income because there's ways around that. And I guess I should tell you about that in a minute. But if your income exceeds this limit, then you have to do what's called a qualified income trust. Okay, so what is the limit and why am I talking about it now? Because it's going up in 2026. In 2025, the income cap is $2,901. It's going up on January 1st, 2026 to $2,982. So if your income, typically Social Security or pension, is over that limit, and they don't look if you're married, that doesn't go towards the cap. So let's say you have a husband and wife that each had $1,500 of income, then you're below the limit. All right. So if your income exceeds that limit, the solution is usually to do a qualified income trust where you put the applicant's income into the trust each month. The income would go to, well, it depends if you're married or if you're single. If you're single, the income, even though the income, the trust doesn't now count as it's like a different person as far as the income still has to be paid. Either if you're single to the facility, if you're in a nursing home. So let's say somebody's income was $3,500 a month. And they look at gross income, not net income. If the income was $3,500, it's not just paying that which exceeds the 2982. You put all the income into the trust and you pay the nursing home that income minus a few deductions. A Medicare Part B that's taken out of your Social Security, Medicare D if you have that, a Medicare supplement premium if you have that, and a $75 personal needs allowance. This is different than if you're at home. If your income was 3,500 and you were single and you had the state paid somebody to come to the house, then the excess over that cap would only be paid. You get to keep that first 2982. Now, if you're married, there's another limit that they look to see how much income could be diverted, if any. So that limit is changing. In this last year, the income cap was $3,948 of how much could be kept by the well spouse. So, and that's going up to $4,066.50. So let's say that $3,500, your income was 3,500, the applicant's income, and the community spouse, the well spouse's income was 1750, half of that amount. Well, 1750 from $4,066.50, that amount, that extra amount can be diverted from that qualified income trust to the well spouse. So now if the well spouse's income was over the $4,066.50, well, then he or she would not get any of the income, and all the income would go to the trust. If both of them were applying for long-term care Medicaid, which is not likely, then we don't see that very often. But if they're both applying, then the cap is doubled. So if the cap was $2,982, that means you double that, and then that would be if your income was less. So in that case, where 3,500 and 1,500, if they're both going into the nursing home, there would be no need for the qualified income trust.
Okay.
So income, there's lots of different qualifications for long-term care Medicaid. This is just about the income. So I don't know if I made that clear as mud. Uh,
Okay.
but and of course, if that person was at home, it's a little bit different. If that, between the 3,550 and 3,500 and 1,500, if the person was single, well, gee, the income would still go to the state for paying for the caregivers coming to the home. But if they both applied, that wouldn't be necessary. If that was the only issue, that there wasn't an issue on assets, which is a different story. You don't put assets into like a checking account or a savings account into it's just the income. So that's a different thing is when you look at the assets. Now, occasionally, I'll tell you one more thing we don't see very often. Let's say that somebody has where they could get what's called a qualified, let's say somebody wasn't getting divorced, but they wanted to be able to get more income and they could get through, let's say somebody had teacher's retirement and they had some sort of separation agreement. It's possible that you could, if the income of the well spouse, let's say a teacher or somebody who uh, was in something where it's getting a larger income, typically it's military or teaching.
Mm.
Sometimes you could get let's say the ill spouse was either a teacher or in the military. Sometimes you could get an order getting a certain percentage of that person of the ill spouse's retirement to get more than that allowable limit of $4,066.50. But that would be taking going to court, which just makes it more difficult. By the way, even though the irrevocable trust it's an irrevocable trust. It'd be using the social security number of the applicant to create a bank account in the name of the qualified income trust. And so even though it's an irrevocable trust, the IRS said, hey, this income's going in and out. It's too much paperwork for us. So I know that then seems hard to believe that the IRS says that, but in this case, they said, okay, we're just going to keep it at the income cap, and you'll just have to use your social security number.
Got it.
Don, I know that you have a lot of questions on that, but I'll,
We have too many questions. I'm just circling back to the 109 Texas programs that I have to explain, which is I'm not excited about because I don't understand any of them, but you do. And let me ask you a question since you brought this up, sort of, at least it came to my mind, and that is that what if they have questions? Should they attend the next workshop in December or January? Or what do they do if they can't attend the workshop? Should they write to you, text you? What do you say?
well, it could be one of several things. Okay, yeah, we have a workshop every month, which it's free. And if you go to the workshop, you get a free what we call vision meeting, where they could come in and ask me questions without charge.
Okay.
Or I suppose if it's really simple, although a lot of times it's, as you can see, just me spouting off, it's always not so simple. Um, they could either email me or probably schedule a meeting. If they said, oh, I don't want to go to a workshop, then they could schedule a meeting. Now, that wouldn't be free if only the people who go to a free workshop would get a free vision meeting.
Okay.
So if you're interested in going to a workshop, then you would just call 214-720-0102. That's 214-720-0102. Or you would sign up online at dallaselderlawyer.com. That's dallaselderlawyer.com. So you could do it any one of those ways.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. It's very helpful. I have lots of questions, but I won't ask them. I'm sure people who are listening to this podcast have questions too. And I'm glad now to know that there are other ways to reach out to you other than just through the workshop if people can't attend.